Hello, I'm Elizabeth Kellums, the City of Greeley Historic Preservation Planner. I'd like to welcome you to our virtual walking tour. We would like to celebrate this year's 150th anniversary for the City of Greeley and the 25th anniversary for the Historic Preservation Program. We will be taking a walk through the Monroe Avenue Historic District, home of Greeley's town founder Nathan Meeker and other prominent citizens. We will be seeing some interesting architecture, things dating from the early 1870s through the mid-1900s. I hope you enjoy, and please let me know at betsy.kellums@greeleygov.com with feedback, questions, and comments, and ideas for future tours. Thank you. Let's get walking. When Nathan Meeker founded Greeley, he established it on 7 founding principles that he felt were essential for the success of the colony: temperance, religion, education, cooperation, agriculture, irrigation, and family values. The design of Greeley was based on 2 eastern towns which had central parks and tree-lined streets. Greeley was platted in 1870 with Lincoln Park in the middle, a central park, surrounded by commercial, residential, government, educational, and religious uses. Streets were named for species of trees, and avenues were named for famous Americans. 9th Avenue, where we are located, was named for President Monroe. Boundaries of the Union Colony were the Cashleputer River and 2nd Street on the north to 16th Street on the south, 1st Avenue on the east, and 14th Avenue on the west. In naming the streets after trees, Nathan Meeker had hoped to plant the corresponding types of trees. However, when they did that, many of the species did not survive because of the dry climate. We are located at the Meeker home, the home of Greeley's town founder, Nathan Meeker. It was built in 1870 by Nathan Meeker when he founded Greeley. It is designated on the Greeley Historic Register and the National Register of Historic Places. In 1869, Nathan Meeker, the agricultural editor of the New York Tribune, organized a joint stock company called the Union Colony to establish an agricultural community in the western United States. Those selected as participants paid a $155 membership fee to Horace Greeley, the treasurer of the company. They wrote letters to Nathan Meeker explaining why they wanted to be in the colony and what qualifications they had, what resources they had to contribute, their educational background, their religious beliefs, etc. Some of those letters are actually at the Greeley History Museum in their collections. The Union Colony purchased land between the confluence of the Cashleputer River and the South Platte River in Colorado Territory. In April of 1870, the town of Greeley was established. Meeker built his adobe house, which is behind us, far from the center of town in order to promote an optimistic attitude concerning growth. I would say he was right. The house was large for that era. He thought it was important for the leaders of the community to build something that looked like they had faith in the little village that they were recommending to others. That makes sense to me. He lived in his house with his wife Arvilla and daughters Rosine, Josephine, and Mary. His son Ralph visited frequently from New York, where he worked as a reporter. From 1870 to 1878, Meeker founded and edited the Greeley Tribune newspaper. He fell increasingly into debt, and especially after the death of his benefactor, Horace Greeley. To get out of debt, in 1878, he took appointment as an Indian agent for the White River Utes in northwestern Colorado. His wife, Arvilla, and daughter Josephine went along. He insisted that the tribe stop their nomadic way of life for an agricultural-based living, that led to increasing violent altercations, which ended in a massacre on September 29, 1879. He was killed, but the women were taken into captivity. Upon their release, 23 days later, his wife and daughter Josephine returned to the adobe home in Greeley. After his death, the women took in boarders and grew their own fruits and vegetables. Josephine understood the underlying causes of the conflict and was sympathetic to the plight of the Indians. She and her sister Rosine went on lecture tours relating the events of the tragedy. In constant mourning, Arvilla lived here until 1904 and passed away in 1905. Rosine lived in the house until 1910, when she sold it for mortgage payments to Stanley Davis, who later sold it to N.D. Bartholomew. The city purchased the house and opened the home as the city's first museum in 1929. It is currently one of 4 City of Greeley museum sites. This is an example of territorial adobe or vernacular Italianate architecture. Characteristics of this style include the adobe structure with the wood shingled hipped roof, the tall narrow windows, the wood balustrade and a brick chimney, 3 bays and a central entrance on the main facade, and wide overhanging eaves. That's it for the Meeker home, and now we will go on to the next location on the tour. Here we are at Greeley Junior High School. This school building was designed by Sidney Frazier, one of Greeley's prominent architects, as a part of the Meeker Junior High School complex, which included the Meeker Junior High School building at 9th Avenue and 15th Street, the 8th Avenue Gymnasium, and Greeley Junior High School here at 811 15th Street. Corbin, Kilgus, and Johnson built this building in 1937 to 1938, and it was completed in May of 1938. It was a public works administration project as a part of the New Deal. The Meeker Junior High School building, which also served as a high school until a new high school was built in 1927, and the 8th Avenue Gymnasium were raised in 1968 after the school district sold them. The building served as a school until 1965, when the district used this building for administrative offices. The School District 6 sold the building to private developers in 2001, and they rehabilitated it for use as apartments. This is an example of Art Deco style of architecture. This is a modernistic style developed in the 1920s. The Art Deco style originated with Finnish architect Ailill Saarinen, who received 2nd place in a design contest for the Chicago Tribune headquarters. His design was an Art Deco design and soon became the latest in architectural design. Art Deco was characteristic of commercial and public buildings, including schools in the 1920s and early 1930s, so this school is in the later example. Characteristic features of Art Deco on this building include glass block, the stepped entrance projecting above the roof line. The geometric motif carved in the terracotta has a geometric floral pattern, although other examples of Art Deco can use other patterns such as chevrons. And the use of lighter color for the architectural detail characterizes Art Deco buildings. That was Greeley Junior High School. Let's go on to the next site. Here we are at the number 3 ditch. This ditch originates on the south side of the Poudre River and follows the contours of the land to the confluence of the Poudre and South Platte rivers. The ditch lining material, or lack of lining, varies as well as the water control devices such as gates, flumes, culverts, and bridges. It flows southeast through town and cuts through the original city limits at 14th Avenue and 13th Street and exits the 1870 limits at 16th Street and 9th Avenue. It was originally designed to serve farms and town lots, including lawns and gardens, and is now used mainly to irrigate city parks. The Union Colony was the first in the Colorado Plains to attempt to irrigate large pieces of land. Before the arrival of the Union Colony, crops generally supplemented the business of cattle raising, but was not usually the primary occupation. Greeley was planned as an agricultural community strategically located at the confluence of the Poudre and South Platte rivers. Although some non-agricultural related industry and commerce existed and sometimes thrived, economic and cultural vitality depended upon irrigating the rich benchlands in the vicinity. Therefore, many residences, businesses, financial institutions, and other resources inside the city limits were directly related to irrigated farming. For example, the largest extant homes were built by lawyers, engineers, capitalists, and land speculators, all of whom derived wealth from the fruits of irrigation. The 1870 Union Colony Articles of Incorporation outlined 4 future ditch projects. Although 3 diversions from the Cache-la-Poudre River and 1 from the Big Thompson River were planned, only 2 were actually built by the colony. The others were built later by private groups. Ditch number 3 supplied the town's water and was built first. Ditch number 2 irrigated outlying croplands. Construction of the number 3 ditch began in April of 1870, shortly after the colonists arrived at the new town site. By May 31st, the ditch, approximately 8 miles in length, was complete. However, numerous extensions and improvements were made thereafter. E.S. Nettleton played an important role in the design and construction of the ditch. The project was financed and carried out by the colony as a whole. On June 7, 1870, the Union Colony Executive Committee appointed David Boyd Water Commissioner and charged him with the duty of taking care of the ditch. Maintenance fees based on city lot size and outside or crop land size were also assessed at that time. Because it was the first large-scale diversion from the Kashlapooter River, the number 3 ditch played an especially important role in the development of the Colorado system of water allocation. During the drought of 1874, the Kashlapooter River was unable to supply enough water to irrigate town gardens or nearby farms due to large upstream diversions near the agricultural colony of Fort Collins. Without reservoirs to store water before and after the growing season, the Union colonists were faced with economic disaster. Even though their ditch predated the Fort Collins ditches by 2 years, no agency or public system had authority to administer or adjudicate claims of prior appropriation. After near violent confrontations, both upstream and downstream users recognized the need for such a system. After the 1876 Colorado Constitutional Convention and the second and third sessions of the Colorado General Assemblies, a workable system for managing water rights was in place. Those who diverted the water first had the first right to use that water, also known as first in time, first in right, and is the Colorado system of water allocation. You know, I'm kind of hot. Maybe I should take a dip in the ditch. Never mind. Let's go on to the next site. Here we are at the Nettleton Mead House. This is our next site on the tour. This house is associated with E.S. Nettleton, a prominent state engineer who helped to design the Greeley ditch system, and Dr. Ella Mead, Greeley's first female doctor. In 1871, prominent engineer and surveyor E.S. Nettleton hired Mr. Bentley to build this house. E.S. Nettleton lived here for an unknown period of time. He helped with the designing and building of the number 2 and number 3 ditches, which irrigated town lots and farmland with water diverted from the Kashlapooter River. Historian Robert G. Dunbar described the number 2 ditch as revolutionary because it was the first large canal to water extensive areas of benchland. He helped to design the Larimer and Weld Canal, a massive project envisioned by Benjamin Eaton and capitalized by the Colorado Mortgage and Investment Company. For many years, the Larimer and Weld was the largest irrigation system in the Kashlapooter area. He also served as a state engineer for Colorado and was appointed to the board charged with supervising the construction of the state capitol building. In 1901, Ella Mead's father, Alexander, had owned the home. She attended Colorado A&M and the University of Denver Medical School, then lived in the home until her death in 1961. After her medical training, she embarked on a remarkable 50-year career as a physician and public servant. She served as president of the Weld County Medical Society and received the Medical Woman of the Year Award from the National Medical Women's Association in 1958. She had a 1906 Maxwell car. It is believed to be the first electrically lighted car in Weld County. It was driven 150,000 miles. She did the repair work on it herself, and I quote from an article by Hazel Johnson, "She used hairpins to mend the fan belt, adhesive tape to patch up a leaky hose to the radiator, and a hot flat iron against the manifold helped start the car in the dead of winter. She did her own grease jobs, and she learned how to adjust carburetors." End quote. This is an example of Italianate style of architecture that was popular from the 1850s to the 1880s. It is an early Victorian style during the early part of Queen Victoria in England. It was impacted in part by the establishment of balloon framing and was also from industrialization, which allowed for mass production of lumber and nails. It was a reaction against classical revival style architecture, and the idea came from Italian farmhouses in the Italian countryside. Characteristics of the style include verticality, an emphasis on verticality, making it look tall, texture and colors as opposed to classical revival, which emphasized white and smoothness, the use of colored glass windows, cube-like, hipped roof with 2 to 3 stories typically, broad overhanging eaves with brackets, windows are usually tall and narrow, and a cupola on top. And that was the Nettleton Mead House. And here we are at our next stop on the tour, St. Peter's Catholic Church. This was built in 1909. Prior to the construction of this building, Greeley Catholics were served by Father Abel of Fort Collins. The first resident pastor was Reverend J.A. Bastine, who established the Greeley Parish in 1903 to 1904. The size of the parish grew, resulting in the need for this building, constructed in 1909. This is an example of Gothic Revival style of architecture. Characteristics include that it is built of brick, it has a very steep roof pitch, the wall surface extends above the roof wall and without a break. Windows have a pointed arch, which is called a Gothic arch, with drip molding above them, and there are crosses on the peak of the gable. Most Gothic Revival style was built in the mid-1800s, probably influenced by medieval European cathedral architecture. Style was most prevalent in the East, with an emphasis on verticality. It was asymmetrical, and the use of stained glass windows. And that's all for St. Peter's Catholic Church. Let's go to the next location. And here we are at the Sterling House. This house was built by D.B. Wilson and William Story McElroy in 1886 to 1887 for Asa Sterling. Asa Sterling was a prominent member of the Greeley community. He served as president of First National Bank. He was involved in the development of irrigation in Greeley. He came to Colorado in 1860 and Weld County in 1871. He raised hay and horses on a farm near Greeley. The book Denver and Vicinity, published in 1898 by Chapman Publishing Company, included an article about Asa Sterling, speaking to his prominence in Greeley. Of the stockmen residing in Greeley, few are better known than the subject of this article, who has gained noteworthy success through his good management in business affairs. In addition to his large stock interests, he is president of the First National Bank in Greeley, which was established in 1884 and is regarded as one of the substantial and safe monetary institutions in northern Colorado. He prevented banking disruptions in Greeley during the Panic of 1893 by pledging his entire personal fortune as protection. He died at this home in 1919, and his wife remained here for several more years in 1922. She passed away in 1922 at the age of 70. When he died, he left an estate of $800,000, of which he gave half to his widow and the remaining half to the rest of his relatives, since Asa and Anna had no children. This is an example of Queen Anne-style architecture. Several characteristic features included the diamond-shaped shingles on the gable end and the wraparound front porch. And that concludes the Sterling House. And here we are at the Southern Gillespie House. This house was designed by Greeley's first female architect, Bessie Smith. She was the daughter of a Greeley contractor and studied architecture through a correspondence school. She worked professionally in Denver from 1901 to 1903 and then returned to Greeley in 1903. She designed many outstanding residences and several commercial buildings. This house is her finest remaining example of a residential structure in Greeley. She seemed to prefer the four-square, which was a form that was popular during the early decades of the 20th century. This house has always been owned by the same family. That in and of itself makes it especially significant and unique. The home's original occupants were Samuel H. Southard, his wife Mary Jane, and their son Charles. Samuel moved to Greeley in 1877 after his election as Weld County Treasurer. He was elected county clerk and county commissioner while engaged in the mercantile business. He moved to this house at 1103 9th Avenue when it was constructed in 1908. Charles Southard lived here in his house until 1910 and then moved to another location in Greeley. He returned to this house in 1944 until his death in 1960. He was a graduate of Columbia Law School, and he opened a private practice in 1907 after serving as a county judge for less than one term. In 1911, he married Angelina Cool. During his tenure as a judge, Charles helped establish Colorado juvenile courts and helped to revise probate laws. He practiced law for more than 50 years. He served as president of the Weld County Bar Association and member of the School District 6 Board. They had 3 children, William, Mary Elizabeth, and Edith. William Southard attended Harvard Law School and joined his father's practice after serving in World War II. In 1939, Mary Elizabeth married an Argentinian citizen, Alejandro Gillespie, and they lived in this house. She lived here until her death. This is an example of an elaborate 4-square residence with classical revival style features. It has a flared hipped roof, cornice brackets, a centered dormer on each elevation, and 2 brick chimneys located on the southeast and southwest corners. The east and north dormers are identical with flared gable roofs with eave returns, cornice brackets, Palladian window, and corner pilasters. The south and west dormers are also identical with hip roofs and paired 1/1 double-hung sash windows. It has a rusticated stone foundation, lap siding, and corner pilasters. The windows are 1/1 double-hung sash with classical moldings. Single light Queen Anne windows flanking the front porch, and sliding stained glass windows centering on the second level between 2/1 double-hung windows framed by pilasters. There are 2 porches located on the front, which is the east, and the north elevations. The front porch features Tuscan order columns supporting a wide frieze and low-pitched hip roof with cornice brackets. Broken pediment and pilasters top the porch, and then the north porch is a semicircular porch with the same features as the front porch with the addition of a low balustrade with convex scroll-sawn supports. This concludes our virtual walking tour of the Monroe Avenue Historic District. I hope you enjoyed it. For more information about historic preservation programs, and walking tours, please visit our website at www.greeleygov.com. Thanks for joining me.